Let me ask you something. Have you ever bought something because someone recommended it? Maybe a friend raved about a restaurant, or a neighbour told you about the best plumber, or maybe a family member insisted you check out a holiday destination. Now I know I have, and today I'm going to be talking about the power of LinkedIn recommendations, how to get them, and what recruiters actually look for when reading them. Okay, so first let's talk about why recommendations are so important. Now think of them like testimonials on a website or reviews on Amazon. They give people the confidence in what they're looking at. Now when someone vouches for your skills, your results, or your work ethic, it adds credibility in a way that you simply can't achieve by talking about yourself. But there's more to it. A great recommendation is specific, detailed, and tells a story about what it's like to work with you. It's not about fluffy statements like, oh, Lucy's great, hire her as a career coach, because that's not going to cut it. What does work is something like this. Lucy helped me land 6 interviews in 6 days, or I followed Lucy's program and got hired in 20 days. Now these are a couple of examples of recommendations I've received, but the principle is the same. Recommendations that give context, highlight an action, or show results are always best. Now it's really these 3 things that make a recommendation worth its weight in gold. All right, so let's get into the practical stuff. Who do you ask for recommendations, and when should you ask? So let's start with who. So be strategic here. You want to ask people who know your work well, can speak to your results or skills in a meaningful way, and most importantly, they need to be relevant. So just because your mum thinks you're great at what you do, a recommendation from her probably wouldn't cut it. Think about your manager. So someone who can highlight your achievements and work ethic, or a colleague or peer who's seen you in action as a team player or collaborator. Or maybe a client. So I'm talking about external stakeholders who can add a unique perspective to your profile. Now, of course, timing is everything. The best time to ask for a recommendation is right after you've done something amazing, whether that's finishing a big project, getting positive feedback, or hitting a milestone. So for example, if your manager just said you did a great job on this, that's a perfect moment to say, thank you. Would you mind writing a quick recommendation about that? The closer the request is to the experience, the easier it is for the person to remember the details and write something specific. So how do you actually ask for a recommendation without feeling awkward? Well, the good news is that LinkedIn makes it pretty easy. So here's how to do it. So go to your recommendations section and scroll down to this section on your profile and click the plus sign. Now select ask for recommendation. So choose the right person. So pick someone you work closely with and whose opinion will carry weight. So maybe it's your boss from your last role, a colleague from a successful project, or even a client. Now LinkedIn will then ask you for the relationship and the position this relates to. Now write a short, polite message that sets the stage. So for example, hi name, I really enjoyed working together on project X. Would you mind writing a quick recommendation highlighting specific skill or achievement? It would mean a lot, and I think your perspective could really add value to my profile. Thanks so much. Now the key is to remind them what you worked on together and give them a starting point for what to write. When you make it easy, people are more likely to say yes. So what separates a good recommendation from one that just takes up space? It comes down to 3 things. So the context. What was your relationship? Were you teammates, or was one of you managing the other? And then the action. What did you do? Be specific about the skills or the project you were involved with. And then the result. What was the outcome? Did you increase revenue, save time, or improve processes? So instead of saying Lucy is a great leader, a stronger version would be Lucy led a team through a complex product launch, increasing sales by 20% and improving client satisfaction. Now, her ability to align the team's effort was instrumental in our success. Now, this kind of recommendation paints a picture of your abilities and impact, which is exactly what recruiters and hiring managers want to see. Now, here's something you might not have thought of. The easiest way to get recommendations is to give one. So think about people you've worked with who have had a positive impact on your career. Now write them a thoughtful recommendation highlighting their strengths, contributions and results. Now why does this work? Well, not only is it a kind gesture, but people often feel inspired and return the favour. Even if they don't, you've built goodwill and that's always a good thing. And remember, when writing recommendations, be specific. Avoid generic statements like Bob is great. Instead, talk about what Bob actually did and the impact he had. Thoughtful, detailed recommendations go a long way. Now, before we wrap up, let me leave you with a few quick tips to make the most out of this section. So focus on quality over quantity. A few strong, specific recommendations are far more impactful than a dozen generic ones. Try to update these sections regularly. Now, this is partly a note to self because I'm always guilty of getting myself so buried in my work that I forget to update mine as often as I should. But essentially, try to make a habit of this. Don't rely on recommendations from years ago. As your career grows, collect new ones that reflect your current skills and achievements. And finally, target your audience. If you're pivoting into a new field, try to get recommendations that highlight transferable skills relevant to your target roles. So to recap, recommendations can be so useful to your LinkedIn when targeted and relevant. They're not just about saying nice things, they're about showing results and providing proof of your value. Be specific and strategic about who you ask, setting the context and following the give to get rule. You can make this section a real standout. And remember, just like we trust recommendations from friends and family when deciding what to buy, recruiters and hiring managers trust these to get a sense of who you are. The more specific and authentic they are, the more powerful they'll be. Now, as always, if you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Next up, we're talking about certifications, accomplishments, and education and how to showcase these to stand out in competitive fields. I'll see you there.